From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Tonight, troops for kidnap attempts on the MD of Zamfara Transport Authority in Mariri community on the outskirts of Gusau. At least 7 people are killed in attacks in Jos Plateau State and Gasol in Taraba State. Federal government lays apprehension over removal of fuel subsidy to rest. As Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipriye Silva, says subsidy will continue for now. And whereabouts of President Roch Marc Kabura are known as army mutinies over welfare issues in Burkina Faso. An attempt by bandits to abduct the managing director of Zamfara State Transport Authority, Mr. Aminu Papa, and his family members in Mariri community on the outskirts of Gusau was foiled by troops of the Nigerian army and local vigilante. Although the Zamfara State Police Command is yet to confirm the incident, a neighbor told Channels Television that the bandits had invaded the community in the late hours of Saturday and started shooting sporadically, then went straight to Mr. Papa's house after engaging the policemen stationed in his house in a gun duel. Mr. Papa and his family members were initially abducted, but the bandits were later intercepted by a combined team of soldiers and local vigilante, which forced them to abandon his family members and Mr. Papa, who sustained gunshot wounds. Following the gun duel with soldiers, about 6 bandits were neutralized. Earlier, the wife and 2 daughters of a lecturer at Federal College of Education, Gusau, were abducted in the same community on New Year's Eve and were subsequently released after ransom was allegedly paid. In a sad development, however, 3 persons have been killed and an unspecified number of others declared missing as bandits stormed Wuroboki village in Gasol, local government area of Taraba State. Gasol is where the Deputy Governor, Mr. Haruna Manu, comes from. The bandits are said to have attacked the area, wearing military camouflage with motorcycles in the late hours of Saturday. According to the chairman of the local government area, Mr. Musa Abdullahi, who confirmed the incident to Channels Television, the armed men set 11 houses ablaze, destroying property worth millions of naira before returning to their hideouts. Musa adds that the bandits have camps in the forest between Sinderdi and Gasol wards in the area. Meanwhile, the Taraba State Police Public Relations Officer Abdullahi Usman has also confirmed the incident and assures that the Commissioner of Police has given marching orders to flush out the bandits. We're still in Taraba State as the government is partnering with the United Nations Development Programme, Japanese government and non-governmental organizations to rehabilitate households affected by the Tiv versus Jukun crisis in the southern zone of the state. The move, which targets 400 persons of the first batch, is also aimed at training them on how to detect crises on time and put together response to avert loss of lives and property.
It took 21 months for relative peace to return to the southern part of Taraba, which was hit by the Tiv Jukun crisis since April 2019, with Wukari local government area the worst hit. The crisis affected agricultural and commercial activities in Taraba State. When the affected tribes resolved their conflict, another form of insecurity struck, this time kidnapping and banditry. To nip this in the bud, the Taraba State government established a military and police outpost which is addressing insecurity within the communities. The latest strategy to address insecurity is this partnership between the state government and the UNDP, Tari Foundation and the government's plan to rehabilitate affected persons through capacity building, development trainings and financial management.
The aim of the project is to look for those people that are less privileged, those people that are affected by the war. They will profile them and give them sense of belonging, give them livelihood, let them feel amount in the society. At least they should forget the trauma of the farmers' headers crisis and also the COVID-19 crisis. Those people that lost their belongings during the COVID-19 crisis are also inculcated into this program. At least let them feel the sense of belonging in the society.
The partners say they have established mechanisms to monitor the growth of each community, just as they insist that the collaboration will enable them train residents in the volatile areas on early detection of crisis.
The project is aimed at reducing the poverty level of people who were affected by conflict previously, just recently in our state. And the community that were affected mostly Wukari and Ibi. We are carrying this intervention from the support that we get from Japanese government through UNDP and with the support of state government.
Some of the beneficiaries say the program has helped them rebuild their lives with optimism for a better future.
Since the crisis has come to an end, I've been able to rest these houses and whatsoever. We thank the state government for the efforts done towards our life in Wukari.
It is expected that with the training on early crisis detection, residents will assist security agencies and the state government in the fight against insecurity before it escalates.
Staying with security, 4 persons have been killed. Another sustained gunshot injuries following an attack by gunmen at a mining site in Don Community, Jos North local government area of Plateau State. The incident is said to have generated palpable fear among residents of the area. According to the State Police Public Relations Officer, Gabriel Uba, the force has deployed personnel to the area to forestall breakdown of law and order, while investigations into the heinous act is ongoing. In the meantime, member representing Jos South Bassa Federal Constituency, Mr. Dachong Bakos, in a statement described the incident as inhumane, while charging security agencies to tackle issues of security head-on. The United Nations Human Rights Commission has called on other donor agencies to step into escalating humanitarian crisis going on in Benue State. According to the UNHCR, the state now has over 1.5 million internally displaced persons, in addition to Cameroonian refugees taking refuge in the state. The UNHCR country representative made the call during the launch of the Benue State Humanitarian Response Plan, noted that if nothing is done urgently, the humanitarian crisis could spin out of control. The event was attended by Governor Samuel Otom.
For the internally displaced persons in Benue State, in addition to their displacement challenges, are issues of hunger and deprivation, one which the Benue State government has launched a plan to help support them.
The international and national humanitarian actors should pull together more resources, capacity, including technical, to come to the rescue of Benue and help us arrest the sliding humanitarian crisis.
Since we have children in IDPs camp with records of malnutrition, pregnant women 0 to 3 years old who are malnourished, nutrition is top, food is top, and then non-food items. But following this will be the issue of their livelihoods, because they need to fend for themselves. It's not about receiving the handouts from the government. They need to fend for themselves, as some plan to resettle, and some are looking forward to peace to return to their lands so that they will go back home.
It is an unfortunate development that we have found ourselves.
Worried by the report, Governor Samuel Otom says the condition of the IDPs, which persists because of their inability to return to their homes, is one that needs to be addressed.
We're trusting God. We're not just going to fold our arms. We're working hard, even in terms of trying to see how we can resettle these IDPs and get them back to their ancestral homes. Because in my interaction with the IDPs, including the children, no one wants to live in any of those IDP camps we have.
The country representative of the UNHCR, Chancellor Kapaya, says all UN humanitarian and donor agencies need to step in, just as the CSOs explain how the new plan can help both the IDPs and the Cameroonian refugees.
She calls for UN agencies, civil society organizations, and all humanitarian actors to give due consideration to the humanitarian situation in the Middle Belt, in accordance with their specific mandates, obligations, in all stages of humanitarian response and in all contexts of disaster or armed conflict situations.
The plan that the governor presented today becomes an instrument. Everybody involved in the sector needs to be aware of what is in the document and then to all implement it. That's when we'll begin to get the kind of impact we're looking for. Otherwise, up to now, people have been doing things in their little clusters, and that can never be good enough.
With the launch of the Humanitarian Response Plan, any aid or donor agency coming to support the IDPs and Cameroonian refugees will build on the efforts of others to see to the reintegration of the displaced population.
Senate President Ahmed Lawan has expressed his sadness over the unfortunate incident at Garin Alkali in Busari local government area of Yobe State, where a military personnel allegedly shot dead a motor driver. The incident ignited violent protests on Saturday in Gashua, the headquarters of Bade local government area. A statement by the Senate President's spokesperson says Senator Lawan sympathizes with the family of the victim and calls for a thorough investigation into the incident and the application of appropriate sanctions to deter future occurrence. Senator Lawan also appeals for calm and assures peace-loving members of the community that justice will be served in this matter. In other news, the third edition of the National Information Technology Development Agency Hackathon 2022 Northeast Edition has been concluded with some promising innovations emerging from participants. A three-day event held at the Modibo Adamawa University, Yola, organized by the National Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics. It's aimed at generating innovation-driven ideas and addressing local challenges in agriculture, security, and in logistics.
Since its inception, the Hackathon, which is an event where a large number of people meet to engage in collaborative computer programming, has stimulated innovative ideas to facilitate solutions for industries.
In order to transport those.
This is the third edition of the Hackathon, organized by the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITSDA. NITSDA is collaborating with 3 academic institutions to host this edition, and specifically for the Northeast, it is partnering with the Modibo Adamawa University, Yola. Out of the over 400 people who applied for the Hackathon, 20 were selected who are indigenes of the Northeast and possess software and hardware skills to solve local problems in agriculture, security and logistics.
As an event that will strengthen the technological entrepreneurship.
The senior manager at NITSDA explains the significance of the exercise, just as the head of ICT Modibo Adamawa University Yola stresses the need for more collaborations between the academia and ICT industry.
I'm delighted to see that we have been able to create a platform where our youths can leverage on the academic research ecosystem to solve national challenges in less than 72 hours using technology.
Most of our researches, instead of it laying in the laboratory or laying in the store, can now be converted into products that can be marketed.
The Dean, Faculty of Environmental Science of the Modibo Adamawa University, applauds the cooperation between the institutions in providing the opportunity for participants to be self-employed.
We are always open to meet the programs and intervention. We really appreciate and look forward to more fruitful relationship with NITDA.
A major part of the event is the presentation of checks to the winners of the Hackathon.
We did a prototype. After doing a prototype, we do something. We presented at the Mautech 2021 convocation, and today we have come up with something tangible that is really marketable and is really relevant to the local farmers.
This competition provides young Nigerians with a platform for their ideas to be polished and supported by NITDA to enable them participate in international events and get funding for their innovations.
In part two, after the break, Super Eagles of Nigeria out of the Africa Cup of Nations as they're beaten 1-0 by Tunisia in the round of 16. Plus, residents of communities along Lagos-Ibadan Expressway ask for even more security presence in the aftermath of recent kidnappings. That's in a moment. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Troops foil kidnap attempt on Managing Director of Zamfara Transport Authority in Gusau. At least 7 people are killed in attacks in Jos Plateau State and Gasol in Taraba State. Federal government lays apprehension over removal of fuel subsidy to rest as Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva, says subsidy will continue for now. Whereabouts of President Roch Marc Kabura, known as army mutinies over welfare issues in Burkina Faso. We switch gears to bring you sports news and the latest from the Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon. The Super Eagles of Nigeria this evening bowed out of the AFCON, losing 1-0 to Tunisia in Garoua. The Super Eagles came into the game as one of the tournament favourites, having won all 3 of their group games, but struggled to impose themselves on the Eagles of Carthage in KG first half that lacked any goal-mouth action. However, Tunisia struck first and took the lead moments into the second half. Youssef Msgani's 30-yard effort snuck into the net as Nigeria goalkeeper Maduka Okoye fumbled the shot and could not keep it out. Despite a spirited first half in the closing minute of the second half, the Tunisians held on to secure a priceless victory and only their second win of the tournament. Meanwhile, Ismaila Ouedraogo scored the decisive penalty kick as Burkina Faso beat Gabon 7-6 in a dramatic shootout to become the first team through to the quarterfinals of the Africa Cup of Nations. After the match, Elimbe finished 1-1 at the end of extra time earlier today. Burkina Faso appeared to have the victory soon up in normal time, all thanks to a first-half goal from captain Bertrand Traoré, who had earlier missed a penalty. Gabon were reduced to 10 men when centre-back Sidney Obisa was dismissed midway through the second half. But they forced extra time as the unfortunate Adama Gira helped the ball into his own net in the first minute of added time. After there was no scoring in the first half hour, penalties went all the way to sudden death, and Lloyd Palon became the third Gabon player to miss his kick before Ouedraogo took the Stallions through. We'll have more sports stories later in the bulletin, but residents of border communities in Ogun and Oyo states are calling on the government to provide adequate security in their area. They allege that on a daily basis, commuters and traders are faced with threats of kidnapping and armed robbery, which sometimes leads to murder. In this report, Channels Television examines the situation and monitors the presence of security operatives along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
At a speed of 100 km per hour, it takes about an hour to travel from Lagos to Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. Unfortunately, the activities of armed robbers and kidnappers along this corridor threatens the safety of traveling by road on this major expressway connecting both states. Barely a week ago, some road users were attacked and some abducted around Onigari community, a border town between Ogun and Oyo states. Following the worrying situation, the Oyo State Commissioner of Police is here on a routine patrol to monitor the performance of the officers deployed to the area.
We've put in place a kind of check that we have the static policemen at the various points, and then we have patrol vehicles too, patrolling from both sides of the road. We've had joint patrols with Ogun State. We've combed the bush even before that one-off incident happened.
Channels Television took an assessment drive to the area with a highway patrol team stationed close to the point of the last kidnap. It's a market day in Imolisa as traders move their goods for sale but lament over incidences of robbery, which they say has affected their businesses.
About 10 o'clock at night, some armed men came to rob us. Although police patrol, but it's not intensive enough. We need more action. They steal our goods. This has also made us lose our customers. We want enough security to end kidnapping around here.
The elderly here complain that they feel very insecure with the recent happenings.
We need peace in our village. Government should help to stop all forms of kidnapping, armed robbery, and murder.
There are so many kidnappers in this area. Secondly, recently, they have murdered 2 people here, around our surrounding here. Secondly, there's some Chinese factory over here. So they have come and kidnapped one of them recently. So but all sorts of things have morally happened in this area, even too much. So we have applied some vigilante in our area, but it's not enough because we need more, security in this area.
Most communities along this axis are agrarian in nature, while others earn a living from quarry. It is, however, imperative for the police from the 2 states to harmonize their operations and curb attacks by armed men so they can restore confidence in the ability of government to protect her citizens.
We're looking at scenes from Obijo Fish Market in Warri South local government area of Delta State earlier today as goods worth millions of naira are engulfed by fire. A chairman of the council, Michael Tiddy, who confirmed the incident, said the fire, which started about 2 this afternoon, was triggered by a mentally challenged woman who was trying to prepare her meal. Although the fire has been put out, residents and shop owners are seen making efforts to salvage what is left of their property. Firefighters from the state were also on ground to put out the fire to avoid it spreading to other parts of the market, while a committee has been set up to carry out a proper assessment of the incident. The national economy, removing the subsidy on price of fuel in Nigeria will not happen anytime soon because the federal government wants to complete consultations and then come out with a clear policy direction on the subject first. This is the position of the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timothy Silva. He told Channels Television's Ladi Akredulale on our current affairs program Newsnight that President Muhammadu Buhari's position on opposing subsidy removal at this point is predicated on what will be the effect on those citizens at the bottom of the pyramid. He also identified some of the options authorities are considering on the matter.
I will tell you categorically that at this moment now, the complete removal of subsidy is not in our plate at all. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is not in support of removing subsidy at this time. So we're working the project, we're working out the processes. Of course, we all know that it's a desirable policy direction, But of course, just like you said, we know that it will have some impact on the people. And that's why we're trying to work out some of those things. And until those details are worked out properly with labor and with all the stakeholders in the sector, we will not remove the subsidy. At this moment, it is not in our plate, I can tell you that. This is something that needs to be worked out now between the federal government and the states. I mean, because this is a federation issue. And that's why for now we're working with the governors to see how we can continue, at least with this policy direction of subsidizing fuel for the foreseeable future. I mean,
yeah, because
details have to be worked out, and that's
because they seem to be sometimes some of the governors, the way they come across is like they are a different arm of government.
No, no. On the contrary, I believe that the governors themselves believe that the removal of pop subsidy is an inevitable policy direction. But the problem, I think everybody agrees, including you, Ladi, including the Labour, everybody agrees that the subsidy removal is something that we need to do as a country. But everybody is mindful of what impact this is going to have on the people. So we have to sit back together to now think about how we can, the process that can have the least effect on the people. That's why we're thinking of a lot of options like giving them an alternative fuel, which will be cheaper. That's why we're looking at auto gas, so that we believe that will at least give an alternative to the people, so that if they find PMS too expensive, then they can have an alternative. And then, of course, we are also looking at the impact it will have on their personal income and expenditure. So a lot of us are also, I mean, the Vice President is also leading an effort discussing about palliatives to the people. So all those are things we are discussing, and we need to bring everything together before we now come out to say, look, this is the package we have, and this is the policy direction towards subsidy removal.
You can watch the full interview with Chief Temipria Silva on Newsnight. It comes up tomorrow, Monday, January 24th at 9 p.m. right here on Channels Television. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has filed a suit at the ECOWAS court against the federal government over what they term secrecy in spending of loans obtained and other issues. The rights group says borrowings by the federal government and subnationals are unsustainable and may impede on the socio-economic development of the country. In the suit, SERAP is also seeking an order directing and compelling the federal government to conduct an assessment of the borrowing by governments since 1999. SERAP argues that borrowing at all levels of government must consider its impact on human rights, noting that long-term debt is a human rights issue and can be a barrier to the government's ability to mobilize resources to advance national development. No date has been fixed for hearing of the case. Still ahead on the news at 10, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo calls Olubadan, late Olubadan, a dependable monarch as he condoles with people of Oyo State. To join us again. Welcome back. Still on economics, the National Development Plan 2021 to 2025 has the vision of accelerating growth, deepening the initiative for diversified growth and fostering sustainable development, which is expected to be carried out through the cooperation of both the state and local governments for job creation, provision of infrastructure and jobs for the people. Our next report takes a look at the expected impact of the plan on Nigerians.
It's been weeks since the National Development Plan 2021-2025 was formally presented to the public by the President, but deliberations on its impact on the lives of peoples across the three tiers of government are still ongoing.
Thank you very much.
Some of the strategic objectives of the plan include a diversified economy, enhancing MSME growth, a resilient business environment, investment in financial and digital innovation, for infrastructure, as well as achieving an educated and healthy populace.
Regardless of whatever government comes into power after this present administration, the government will still be seeking to continue to strengthen the diversification of the Nigerian economy. And that's one of the major objectives of the plan. We sought to provide a strong foundation for a concentric, diversified economy. Why concentric, diversified? Because already the Nigerian economy is diversified. It's truly diversified. But we want to deepen that diversification. So any government that comes must be doing that.
The National Development Plan was formulated against the backdrop of several subsisting development challenges in the country and the need to tackle them with a framework of medium and long-term plans. These challenges include low and fragile economic growth, insecurity, weak institutions, insufficient public service delivery, notable infrastructure deficits, climate change, and weak social indicators. Specifically, the plan aims to generate 21 million full-time jobs and lift 35 million people out of poverty by 2025, thus setting the stage for achieving the government's commitment of lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years. We speak to a development expert about what he makes of the plan.
2021-2025 development plan is a blueprint in the right direction. More so that we all identify, we all know what countries have been facing in the recent time. How do we come out with it? There must be a structured approach. There must be a structured blueprint. There must be a structured, roadmap of addressing some nagging fundamental crises and challenges.
At the just concluded budget breakdown, the Minister of Finance, Mr. Zainab Ahmed, gives an insight into how fuel subsidy removal, which was earlier proposed to start running from January to June 2022, will offer a stipend of 5,000 naira to about 40 million Nigerians.
Our assumption is that by June, we'll have been able to work through a process together with all stakeholders, including the National Oil Company, all the regulators in the oil and gas sector, different key MDAs that have a role to play, as well as the businesses and labor organizations.
Nigeria is currently facing security challenges, and this is negatively impacting on the investment drive and economic development. The COVID-19 pandemic has only worsened the situation, thus affecting the nation's revenue. The government is hoping that public and private efforts will make this plan a reality.
Make a brief stopover in Kano State, where earlier today an accident occurred in the metropolis where a train crushed a truck loaded with bags of cement and a tricycle carrying 4 passengers. The truck belonging to Dangote Cement Company was seen to have fallen upside down, with cement littered all over the rail tracks, while the tricycle was also seen crushed with broken glasses and tricycle parts scattered on the tracks as well. Channels Television gathered that those injured have been taken to hospital for medical attention. Health now. Experts have expressed concern over the increased cases of sickle cell disease in Yobe State, asking the government and the general public to ensure they undergo sickle cell screening before marriage. In this special report, we examine the cases of sickle cell disease in Yobe State and mechanisms put in place to reduce the number of deaths and infections attributed to the disease.
Sickle cell anemia is regarded as the most common form of sickle cell disease, with Nigeria accounting for almost half of the 300,000 yearly global infections, according to UNICEF. According to the Yobe State Sickle Cell Eradication Initiative, Yobe is one of the most prevalent states in Nigeria, accounting for 32% of infections in the country. Officials insist that unmarried couples test for the disease before they get married.
If you are a sickles and you marry to a sickles, definitely by each pregnancy,
the chance of you to give a birth to a skilled patient is 100%. Some is 55%, some is 75%. But when you have the chance of 25%, this is something good. But what the advocate is saying, that let's advocate to have at least 25% and below.
This patient explains the challenges he faces living with sickle cell anemia.
Sometimes you may have a crisis which it can lead you to be staying at home taking drugs. You are in pain, you cannot even attend lectures.
The Yobe State Sickle Cell Eradication Initiative is carrying out a blood drive and sensitization program in medical schools on the need to help save lives by donating blood, beginning with the students of the Sule College of Nursing and Midwifery in Yobe State.
Most of our families or the patients, the parents, they cannot afford the expenses of the hospital. So therefore, we want to cushion the problem of that financial issue by providing the blood free to them, and then we donate to them. So we have this decision as part of our patient support with regard to the sickle cell disease eradication initiative.
Students of the college are glad to donate blood for those suffering from the disease.
Sickle cell patients are really suffering in this life. We have to help them, because there is no way, if you are healthy, it's a gift for you from God.
I'm donating this blood because I want to help people, because people are dying daily because of sickle cell problem. That's why I want to donate my blood to help them.
While experts are asking the government to provide a long-term plan to stop the spread of the disease, the general public is urged to donate blood to people suffering from sickle cell anemia, especially the most vulnerable in the society.
Staying with health, as a result of the spread of the Omicron variant of COVID-19, stakeholders in Kogi State have called on residents of the state to submit themselves for vaccination to avoid being affected. The call was made during a one-day capacity building for key stakeholders in Lokoja, the state capital. The stakeholders, who said COVID-19 is real and have ravaged many countries across the world, called on residents of the state to ensure they are vaccinated to curb spread of the virus.
Civil society organizations, representatives from the Ministry of Health, Labor, Market Women and journalists gather at this one-day capacity building program organized by Challenge Parenthood Initiative, CPI, in Kogi State. The program is geared towards sensitizing the stakeholders to become ambassadors for public acceptability of COVID-19 vaccination. The executive director of Challenge Parenthood Initiative explains that the capacity building workshop became necessary in order to ensure that relevant stakeholders work together to convince the public on the need for them to be vaccinated against COVID-19.
What we are actually expecting is for citizens of Kogi State to take ownership and then to also take responsibility of their health, and also to have behavioral change around acceptance of this COVID-19 vaccine, so that everyone is safe at the end of the day, and also, we're taking responsibility of our health, and also we have a state that is safe for all to live.
For the Dean Faculty of Management Science, Kogi State University, Aigba, claims by some people that the vaccines are not safe is highly misleading.
Let us all go and take the vaccine. It is safe, it is good, but don't forget, taking it alone is not enough. Maintain the non-commercial procedure.
Some of the stakeholders share their thoughts on the vaccines as they debunk claims of its harmful nature, while others appeal to residents to embrace the vaccines.
I will take the message back to them and to my community. Especially, I will tell them everybody should key in to go and get the vaccine, because the vaccine have no harmful to anybody.
From this stakeholders meeting, I have come to confirm and accept that COVID is real, and that for my not getting vaccinated is putting the rest of the community at risk.
Everybody should go and take the vaccine. It's safe, and that the vaccine do not have the potential for harm, as we have already found out during the workshop itself.
With the capacity building workshop for stakeholders in Kogi State, participants are optimistic that residents will wholeheartedly embrace COVID-19 vaccination.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has been commiserating with residents of Oyo State over the demise of two of their monarchs. The Vice President was in Ibadan and Ogbomoso to commiserate with families of the late Olubadan of Ibadan land and of Ogbomoso land.
Since the death of the Olubadan of Ibadan, His Royal Majesty Oba Saliu Adetunji, there's been an outpour of condolences to the family. Across the country, both serving and former political leaders have continued to sending their goodwill messages and visits. The latest visitor is the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who is here to commiserate with the family. Although in grief, residents still give the number 2 citizen a warm welcome. The widow of the traditional ruler, other family members, Council of Chiefs are also on ground to receive him. The Vice President, who addresses his host in Yoruba language, says his message is as sent by the President, Muhammadu Buhari. He prays for peace in the land and across the nation. The 41st traditional ruler of Ibadan died in the early hours of Sunday, January the 2nd, 2022, at the age of 93, and has since been buried. Earlier, the Vice President visited Ogbomoso, also in Oyo State, to commiserate with the family of the late Shon of Ogbomoso land, Oba Oladuni Ajagungbade III. He described the late monarch as an astute statesman and a great leader among Yoruba traditional rulers.
Rangers in Yankari Resort and Safari have been able to use technology to reduce poaching, cattle grazing and other illegal activities in the reserve. Their work recently attracted international recognition after a senior ranger in the reserve won the Wildlife Ranger Award in London. Our correspondent Hajira Aliyu takes a look at how the rangers are able to protect wildlife, especially with the collaboration of communities.
Yankari Resort and Safari takes pride in having one of the largest elephant population in West Africa. The flora and fauna in the reserve have flourished in the last couple of years due to conservation activities, and this has attracted global attention. Recently, Suleiman Seidu, a ranger in Yankari, won the Tusk Wildlife Ranger Award, which he received from Prince William, the Duke of Cambridge, at a ceremony in London. Mr. Seidu has dedicated 21 years to wildlife protection. From time to time, he would lead a team on patrol and return after 8 nights.
If the elephant is reducing, I will not feel happy because we are protecting it because for future generation. So when the elephants are finished, the younger people or the remaining people will not see it.
Their work has been made more effective with the use of aerial surveillance and a smart-based patrol provided by the Wildlife Conservation Society. With this, the reserve has seen a rapid reduction in poaching, cattle grazing, and corruption.
These rangers behind me are carrying out a training exercise. They have played a significant role in protecting the wildlife in Yankari. Their successes would have been minimal without the involvement of communities. The Wildlife Conservation Society has engaged more than 50 communities living on the fringes of Yankari.
This elephant guard, recruited by the Wildlife Conservation Society, uses the motorcycle provided to him to report back on scrupulous activities around the reserve.
We have given a first lift or a change to how the
communities look at the rangers. They used to see them like those guys that just come to arrest us when we encroach into the reserve before now. But they now see them as brothers. They understand what they do.
Jamila Muhammad, a housewife, is one of those who benefited from the efficient firewood stove, an approach deployed to control habitat degradation.
Gaskiya wahala ya ragu saboda gurin sayan itace ko da itace aka ka miki daga jeji zai taimake ki itacen kwana 3 ne zai iya miki kwana 5 ko sati kina amfani da shi da wannan murhu.
The multifaceted approach to conservation has provided a more sustainable way of assisting humans to live in harmony with nature. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
In crime and criminality, operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency have raided a leisure center in Abuja known as The Garden and detained 6 people for peddling drug cookies and noodles. During the raid of The Garden, located behind a shopping mall in Wuse Zone 5, one Rachek Famiyeshun, who deals in drug cookies, and her sales girl, Stella Sunday, were apprehended. Meanwhile, drug traffickers attempt to export 1.53 kilograms and 880 grams of cocaine intended for London and Saudi Arabia through 2 major courier companies in Lagos have also been foiled by narcotic officers. Another success was recorded by the Edo State Command of the agency, who intercepted a Toyota Camry loaded with 360.4 kilograms of cannabis sativa headed for Abuja. Following their efforts, the chairman of the NDLEA, General Buba Marwa, encouraged officers not to rest on their oars until the war on drug abuse and illicit drug use is brought to a complete stop in the country. Beyond our shores now, there have been reports of heavy gunfire near a military air base in Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou. The government, however, denies there was a coup and debunks reports of the president being detained. The gunfire was heard at several military camps where mutinying soldiers called for more support from the government in their fight against Al-Qaeda and Islamic State militants. The disaffected soldiers also wanted top generals to be replaced, better care for injured troops, and more support for the families of soldiers killed in battle. The unrest comes a little over a week after 12 people, including a senior army officer, were arrested on suspicion of planning to destabilize Burkina Faso's institutions. It also comes a day after police used tear gas to disperse banned rallies, arresting dozens. Heavy arms of fire were heard in Sangul camp, which houses the Army's general staff and prison, whose inmates include soldiers involved in a failed 2015 coup attempt. The gunshots were heard as early as 5 in the morning. One reporter on the ground said he saw soldiers firing into the air in the camp. A witness also reported gunfire at a military camp in Kaya, around 100 kilometers north of Ouagadougou. The government later confirmed the gunfire, but denied the army had seized power. Speaking on national television, Defense Minister General Barthélemy Sempore denied rumors that President Roch Marc Kabura had been detained, adding that the motive behind the gunfire was still unclear. In the meantime, hundreds of people gathered on the Place de la Nation at the center of the city to show their support for the military. Police later dispersed a crowd of around 300 people who had been shouting that President Kabura leave power. It was later discovered the headquarters of President Kabura's political party was burned and looted by protesters. The location of President Kabura is currently unclear. The former bank and prime minister became president after winning elections in 2015. The polls were the first since long-serving leader Blaise Compaoré went into exile a year earlier following a popular uprising against his rule. No fewer than 16 people have been killed in a fire at a nightclub in the Cameroonian capital Yaoundé. At least 8 other people were seriously injured. The incident happened in the early hours of today. The government said in a statement that the fire was caused by fireworks being used in the nightclub. The fire first consumed the building's ceiling, resulting in 2 very loud explosions, causing panic and stampede. A fire engulfed the main room of the Leaves nightclub in the capital's upmarket Bastos district. The tragedy comes as the country hosts football players, fans and match officials from across the continent for the African Football Cup of Nations. To more cheery news now. Work hard, get married, look after your home, and also respect elders. The words of advice from the one who has spent more years than many on earth. Gogo Joanna Mazubuko says she's 127 years old, and her small community in Matsalana in South Africa's Northwest Province turned out to celebrate her. Present at the ceremony was also the mayor of Matsalana's municipality, James Nsolela, who appealed to members of all communities to care for older persons around them and protect them from abuse.
Ahead of the arrival of the celebrant, members of her Matlosana community fill the hall as much as COVID-19 protocols allow. Soon, Mama Johanna Mazibuko, who is fondly called Gogo, arrived for the ceremony. The mother of 7, who has only 2 surviving children, is said to be the oldest person living in South Africa. There is no birth certificate to verify this, but her national identity card bears the date she claims she was born. And if you go by this, she turned 127 years in May 2021. To mark it, she said she had just one request.
I asked her which church is she. She told me that she's having a church, but it has been a long time that she didn't see the reverend or the pastor or the minister of the church. Then she requested that may we please give her a Holy Communion.
Gogo Johanna got her wish of the sacrament of the Holy Communion, and the rest of the party got underway.
Always abused, are always neglected. So we want to encourage our South Africans that they must take care of the elderly people. When they go to their celebrations, they must make sure that they leave elderly people being under the care of some people that will not abuse them.
Madam Johanna Mazibuko has lived in Matlosana all her life, the best years of which she says are those spent caring for her husband, as she grew up in a very strict family. Her daughter-in-law, who takes care of her, says she has no regrets being there for her up to this point. And to us, the celebrant says younger people should work hard, get married, look after their homes, and respect elders. On her secret to a long life, she says it's the grace of God, as she sang to us the Setswana version of the Lord's Prayer. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
In more sports news, the Nigeria Professional Football League defending champions Akwa United were held to a goalless draw by visiting Sunshine Stars of Akure in matchday 8 clash played at the Nest of Champions in Uyo. Wiki Tourists picked their 4th win of the season following a 2-1 win against Plateau United. Kano Pillars defeated MFM FC of Lagos by a lone goal in Kaduna. Abia Warriors and Dakada FC settled for a 1-1 draw. Nasarawa United beat Katsina United by a lone goal to record their 3rd win of the season. Lobi Stars of Makurdi defeated 7-time champion Eyimba International by a lone goal. And in the English Premier League, Arsenal missed out on a chance to return to the Premier League's top 4 after they were held to a goalless draw at the Emirates Stadium by bottom club Burnley. Forward Alexander Lacazette went closest for the Gunners, poking in Emile Smith Rowe cutback narrowly wide midway through the second half. Liverpool extended their win run over Crystal Palace to 10 games as Jurgen Klopp's side ran out 3-1 winners at Selhurst Park on Sunday to close the gap to Manchester City, to 9 points. Leicester City's European hopes suffered another setback as they were held to a 1-1 draw by Brighton. World number 7 Matteo Berrettini has defeated Spain's Pablo Carreño Busta 7-4, Kecmanovic 7-5, 7-6, 6-3. And we're sad to see them go. The Super Eagles of Nigeria this evening bowing out of the Africa Cup of Nations, losing 1-0 to Tunisia in Garoua. The Super Eagles came into the game as one of the tournament's favourites, having won all 3 of their group games, but struggled to impose themselves on the Eagles of Carthage in a cagey first half that lacked any goal-mouth action. Tunisia struck first and took the lead moments into the second half. Youssef Nsgani's 30-yard efforts knocked into the net as Nigeria goalkeeper Maduka Okoye fumbled the shot and could not keep it out. Despite a spirited first half in the closing minutes of the second half, the Tunisians held on to a secure, priceless victory and only their second win of the tournament. And the main news again. Troops foiled a kidnap attempt on MD of Zamfara Transport Authority in Gusau. Mr. Aminu Papa and his family members, the family had earlier been kidnapped, but an interception by a combined team of soldiers and vigilante groups led to the kidnappers abandoning their victims and fleeing. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. From all of us here, it's good night.